Hello. Today we have Jen Alvin here on Can't Not Create, my newsletter and videos about stories and strategies for artists trying to figure out how to start their creative career. So thank you, Jen, for joining us today.
Well,
You are the
thank you.
absolutely. You're the author and artist of Stronger, Wiser, and Still Fabulous, an activity book for resilient women who color outside the lines. That's such a fun title. And you have a corporate background, but obviously a very deeply creative side, which you share with the world through your book and also Instagram. Everyone should take a little look around there. Jen likes to make things. What is your creative personality? And like, it's like, I was like, Jen likes to make things is very apt because it's like fiber arts, illustration, painting. I think my favorite thing I saw on there was your PDX carpet print dress. I
Oh
love
my
that. I
gosh,
hope
I had so much fun making that.
there's that more one time thing.
It was a one-time thing. So I've been a volunteer and shopper at Scrap. I don't know if your viewers are familiar
Yes.
with that school
Oh, I
community
am, but
reuse
yes.
action project. I love them. And if you see something interesting there, you want to nab it. And there was a whole bunch of the PDX carpet fabric. I think it was used for banners. I'm like, oh, that could be a dress. And I
Yeah.
started it in maybe 2019 or 2020. It took me a whole 5 years to finally finish it.
Okay, so that's a good little sampler of things to come in terms of like your creative flavors. But yeah, I also enjoyed the puppet. I saw it was just like such a wide foray, and it also again felt so relatable. I feel like you go online and you see these people who just get so into one thing, and it's beautiful, but it's like they are in it deep in that one medium. And I'm much more like what I saw with you. We like to do a lot of things, and we can't be tied down to one specific thing, which is such a fun way of being, but it can make it hard if you're like, how do I break into the art world? I think consumers and the way business works tends to like niche specific things. But I love that you've found a way to make things work like either for yourself or now you found one place to showcase that with your book. And so I want to hear all about this. And I also saw you're having a book launch party next week in Southwest Portland, which I'm excited about. And I'm like, things don't happen a lot in Southwest Portland.
Yeah.
I put it on my calendar.
Yeah,
So
so it's April 4th. I can talk very briefly about that. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to vanish for 2 months. And I went and worked at a winery because an old friend said, hey, you want to come and work in my winery for 2 months? And I'm like, this is really cool. So I got my hands dirty, learned so many different things. There's actually a reel on Instagram that it's a 1 minute capture of what working 2 months in a winery is. My hands are finally clean. They're not stained with Pinot Noir anymore. I love that
your
I
book
have the
launch.
ability. Yeah, oh, book launch. Okay, thank you for thanks for reeling me back because I will go tangity like, oh, shiny, and I need to be able to bring myself back. So the location that I chose for the book launch is called Community Wine Bar, and I love it because so it's two women running it. I love that I'm able to pair my winemaking experience and learning that with women who are entrepreneurs and making their own wine. And they've just built this really gorgeous space in Southwest Portland. So it's for women businesses, creativity. I went to a drink and draw there the other day. I love finding ways to support other women entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's so cool. What a good blend of all the things. Okay, so we've backed ourselves
Sure.
into introducing you, which I love. Um, we're obviously excited. Tell me a little bit more about your origin story. What's your background? What has brought you to the current creative status of maker of all things and someone who has created a real life book?
Mhm. Yeah, as I consider myself an artist, I am an adventurer, I'm a creative badass, and I love to make things. I am the person who will reverse engineer things. I will be out, actually, it's a really great example. There's a TV show called Top Gear. It's a UK show where they talk about cars. They do a lot of really interesting, funny things like the hosts get challenges. Here, build a boat from a car that can cross the English Channel. It's
Cool.
crazy. Some of what they do is they have an audience, like just a big crowd of people who are in the studio when they do the studio pieces. And there was a woman who was wearing a shrug. It was kind of like a lime green, just gorgeous thing. And I saw that and just fixated. I'm like, I want to have that shrug. So I took a screenshot of where this woman was because she was standing behind the presenters. And I went and reverse engineered a knitting pattern for that. It's actually
Oh,
available
no
out on
way.
Ravelry. I wrote it, gosh, over a decade ago. I've had a few people write back. They're like, yeah, the instructions aren't that easy to follow. And I went back a couple years ago and tried to remake it from the pattern I wrote. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this was lacking. But I have a pattern out on Ravelry. It's like I keep having these things. It's like I want to check them off. And I have written a pattern for Ravelry. I may not do it again. A lot of my projects are one-offs. There's some things like there's people who are creating on Etsy or in craft markets. I can't fit myself in that box. It doesn't work for me because I'm like, ooh, shiny. I want to learn how to do new things. So a lot of my projects are one-offs. One
Yeah.
of the things I did this week was revisiting leather carving. I take a class on that 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm like, hey, I have this idea and I want to play with this again. Unfortunately, in my studio, you can't really tell with the way that this is framed. Over on this side, I've got a serger, I've got a sewing machine. The sewing machine is also an embroidery machine. I have things to make shoes. I have like leather paint, leather carving, buttons. I have a lace making pillow. So it's a thing that fits in your lap and you use it like if you're going to do hairpin lace. And
Oh,
it's kind of
wow.
like a rolling thing. So I love to travel. And I'd been in Sweden last summer. And there's a friend of mine who I visit every time that I go to visit. And it's never to go and see the sights in Stockholm. It's like, all right, we're going to hang out and we're going to binge watch rom-coms and just hang out on the couch. And there's a thrift store in her neighborhood that
Oh my
it's
God.
open one day a week. I finally was there on a day when they were open. We went over there and I saw this pillow that's made for it's used for making lace. I'm like, I love this thing. And I've been traveling carry on only because that's usually the way I go. I bought a suitcase. I purchased this pillow and I bought a suitcase so that I could bring it home with me. And I paid the extra money so that I could have luggage come home with me. I think the lace making pillow with all the conversions was maybe $10 tops. The suitcase was $6. And it cost me about 100 to upgrade my ticket so that I could pack the suitcase. But it's
Transport
like
it.
I have a story and I have a tool. These are the things that are in my studio. I discover a lot of things. One of the things that I love about scrap is I can go in and I can pay $5 for a kit. I would never be willing to spend like $40 or $100 to try out that discipline. But I will totally pay $5 for a kit if I really like it. That's my gateway drug. I will invest money to do more things. If I
Mm.
don't like it, it's okay, $5, and maybe I pass the kit on to something or to someone else. I'm also a spinner of yarn. I have two spinning wheels in my studio. Plus, I have what's called a drum carder. I have a fiber picker. I have a blending board. Anyway, lots and lots of stuff
So
to go
these are,
with.
I often find myself like following Instagram accounts of people
Mhm,
doing that stuff. And I'm like, I don't really get what's happening, but I love
mhm.
to watch it. It's so mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's very relaxing. There's a craft circle in my neighborhood where we'll meet at a local coffee shop, and I will bring my spinning wheel with me. One of them is a travel one that can break down into individual pieces, and I can put it into a suitcase that actually fits in the overhead compartment in airplanes. I had to go to a family reunion last summer, and I had this kind of trade-off. I'm like, all right, do I pack more clothing? Or do I pack the spinning wheel because it was going to be a stressful family reunion? And I wound up like, all right, F the
I need
clothes.
my coping mechanisms.
I need my yes coping mechanism. That's it. So I packed the spinning wheel and worth the space in my luggage. I'd actually gotten into spinning yarn. I needed to get out of town for the weekend, and there's a woman who runs an Airbnb in Central Oregon. When you go, you stay in sheep wagons, which are the wagons that if you're a sheep herder, you bring them around with you out on the prairies as you follow the sheep as they're doing their grazing. So she
Oh, wow.
has this circle of sheep wagons where you can go and you can rent one, you can stay in them. Beds are so comfy and it's on a farm. She warns you very clearly, this is a working farm. This is not a fancy Airbnb thing. She's got chickens running all over the place. You get eggs included with your stay, so you can just go in if you want to make things with eggs. And one of the appeals for it was she would teach you how to spin yarn. I'm like, this is really cool. I get out of town and I get to
This
learn
is
something new.
awesome.
Yeah, so she and I are actually really good friends now. And the guidelines that she sets for teaching people how to spin yarn is I will teach you, you have to teach other people. There was a woman that I met on Instagram because she'd been following my stories. I'm like, okay, I have this gorgeous porch that has lots of space on it. Come on over to my house. I've been following your stuff. I trust you to come over to my house. I have a second spinning
Right.
wheel. And we spent this afternoon where I taught her how to spin yarn, thus fulfilling my promise to Lois that once she taught me that I can teach more people.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I'm like, first of all, just so I don't feel like I've ever had someone describe the process of deciding how to pack and like just the negotiating like what craft supplies and projects to bring with
Mhm,
you because that's the only thing I think about. And half the time I travel, like I have kids, I don't travel a lot. Like I
mhm,
don't ever even have time to do that stuff, but that's still
mhm,
like front and center is I'm like, how do I bring all of my notebooks and all of my coloring things? And what if I
mhm,
want to learn how to do a whole new craft while I'm gone? And then I get there and I'm like, what did I just do? But these like craft oriented vacations are so
mhm,
genius. I'm totally on the same page. So this is like an inherent part of your life. It sounds like there's not
mhm.
really like a real, this is when I started becoming a creative person. It was just like always looking for everything new and fun and running with things that you learn forever in different capacities.
Yeah, there are a lot of women in my life who really encouraged me on this path. My paternal grandmother, artist from the word go, and I remember going down to their house in the summer, and we'd stay there for a week, and she had all these craft projects ready for us. That's where I learned how to use Fimo, the and Sculpey, the I'm
Yeah,
forgetting
the
the
clay.
exact term for it. Yeah, so the clay, like how to do millefiori, to do beads for necklaces. She also had all of my grandfather's old undershirts. And so she just like, okay, here's fabric paint, here's the little pens you can do for fabric paint. And she's run with this, make things.
Try maybe just turn the camera off and on again. Sometimes that
All right, let's try something different.
makes it happy. All right, I am not hearing you anymore in case you can hear me still. All right,
Coming back. Yeah. My
cool.
internet has been dropping from time to time, which bothers the heck out of me. So we're going to switch to my, see, we get another view of my
Perfect.
office. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, cool. Just slice out the little hiccup there. That's
Sure.
all good.
I
So you're
can
saying
finish
you,
that really
yeah, you were talking
quick
about your
in
paternal
that, yeah, my
grandmother,
paternal grandfather,
grandfather.
she had all of the t-shirts and she's here, make stuff with this. She gave us fabric paint, the fabric pens, and I made a complete outfit, like top to bottom, from this shirt. Actually, I'll send you on Instagram, I'll send you a picture because it's really adorable.
Yes,
I think I'm like 10.
that's amazing. So you were just like told to. I feel like I have something a little similar. Like my mom's mom, my grandma was around every summer and she started painting, I guess, in her late
Mhm,
30s, which is funny
mhm.
because I feel like that gave me like this like mental timeline of, okay, like you're a creative person, but when you're in your late 30s, you really have to get things going. But yeah, she was a painter and she always encouraged us. And it was funny. I never thought hard about this as a kid, obviously, but as an adult, I noticed she passed away about 10 years ago. And my mom, in her obituary, wrote
Mhm.
about how she always let the grandkids use the nicest paintbrushes. And I was like, oh, yeah, she
I
did.
love that.
I was never told, don't use that or we have to
Mhm,
save that or that's special. It was just like, go for it, do everything. And yeah, like the painting and the sewing. And I think it really does take someone who's inherently has the potential and
mhm,
puts that as a value that like becomes part of you. And I've never been able to shake that. It's like it's on the list of staying physically healthy, like reading
mhm,
books, things like that.
mhm,
Your checklist of things that you just feel like you should be doing all the time. It's like making art, and you're like, I don't really
mhm.
know why. It's just a thing that needs to be happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so this is just something that you've always done. Like it seems like you've had professions that are outside of like this more strictly creative world, but you just keep
Mhm.
doing this all the time anyway.
Yep, absolutely. I do a lot of journaling, and I've actually been going back through my journals and some of my goal setting over the last decade. And recurring theme is I love working in tech, and I would love to be a creative full time and have that be my only gig.
Okay. Yeah. So
Mhm.
a lot of similarities here.
Yeah.
But you're actually doing some really cool stuff. Yes, it's fun to do. And I guess I shouldn't say that in a way that diminishes doing art and creating
Mhm.
things without any publicity or hopes for monetary gain or things like that. That's all
Mhm.
amazing. I admire people who don't think about that stuff a lot. That's not
Mhm.
something I'm able to not think about. But you have taken a lot of steps to find different ways to share it and put it out there in that different way. So tell me a little bit about how you came to channel some part of your creative energy into creating this activity book.
I don't know how long you've lived in Portland, but a little over a year ago, they had this epic ice storm. The
Mm.
city down completely. So many people lost power. It was terrible. And I remember in my house, I had no power for about 36 hours. I am freezing my ever-loving tail off because I have no heat, no power, no anything. And my life had also gone sideways in that I'd been laid off by the very large company I'd been working for, and I was having difficulty finding permanent work. My marriage was ending. My father had just died, and my financial woes were just kept stacking up. I'm like, this is really stupid. And I had attended a book writing workshop recently where I'm like, I'm going to write a book about tech because I have a very specific discipline that I work in, and there really aren't any books about it. And while I'm freezing, like in my house, I'm like, I want to write the book that I wish someone would hand to me while I'm going through all of these life events. And my book coach heard that. She's, yes, do that. Forget the tech book. Do that book. And originally, I it was Project Plucky Princess. That's what I called it.
Oh,
I was telling my friends, I'm like, I am the plucky princess who is going to work her way through adversity with the help of her woodland friends. And I ran it past another artist creative friend of mine, and she's, yeah, Disney's already got a lock on that. How can you make things a little bit different?
good way to say that.
Yeah, I have mad respect for this friend because she doesn't pull any punches and she knows that we can have those kinds of conversations. And I'm not going to be offended by it. I specifically asked for her feedback. I'm like, talk me out of this. She's like, all right, I'm going to talk you out of this, or at
That's
least
because
redirect
it
you.
like sounded perfect. I was like, I'm slowly writing that one.
Yeah.
But then she says that. Okay, so you switch
And
gears a little bit.
yeah, so I switched gears a little bit and I'm like, all right, let's do this as an activity book. There was a book series that was really popular in the 80s called the Anti-Coloring Books. I probably still have mine somewhere around here, where instead of giving people, here's something to draw in like color a bear, it had a lot of drawing prompts for kids. Or it's like, here, draw yourself in a mirror, draw yourself as a superhero, and just giving them
Hmm.
prompts so that they could work with that. I'm like, what if we fast forward this to make it about women in my demographic who they could be women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s who have been through some really tough life events and are still standing strong. So I want to have those types of drawing prompts, but sometimes when you want a distraction, it's not just about drawing. Also, some people don't think of themselves as creative. They don't like, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely terrified. I can't draw. I'm not going to draw. So I wanted to have a mix of word puzzles also, like the old school activity books you'd get, like
Yeah.
from your parents, or here's something to keep you occupied. So I wanted to have word finds and crossword puzzles, a little bit of a lot of things. I also, part of my brand is doing what I call sticky notes to self. It features pretty prominently on my Instagram stories where I write up a post-it note of what I want to think or believe or tell myself on any given day. And so I just do a cute little selfie in the mirror in my office every day. And I wanted to be able to incorporate some of the messages that I tell myself in the sticky notes within the book. So some of the pages are just collections of sticky notes.
Oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to be a sticky note person, and I'm not. Like, whenever I go into an office and there's like sticky notes everywhere,
Yeah.
and there's to-do lists and messages that people want to resonate with, and
Right.
like that just never comes to me naturally. But I think it's like so cool and fun. And
Yeah,
I
but
like,
actually got this for me for Christmas, and I've organized it where I have a drawer of black Sharpies, and then I've got more colored Sharpies elsewhere
so
in my
you are
office.
always ready to sticky note. Yeah,
I mean, a
but I
lot of
love
my
this
office
idea.
is okay, I want to be ready. Like I hoard things. And if I decide one morning, like, oh, I want to build this thing, I probably have the raw materials to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love so many references to this office already. It sounds like it's like the perfect little utopia for you.
Yeah.
Um, that's been my challenge is like figuring out a place and a way to set things up. But yeah, but just this kind of it's funny because like I do love drawing and I
Mhm.
don't need a coloring book to get me to draw. But that's sorry, keep going back to the sticky note thing. I
Sure.
like
No,
the
I
idea that
really.
there's like this like kind of gentle guide to help you in your sticky noting and empower people to send themselves those messages or borrow
Mhm.
yours that you have to share with them.
Yeah. I like that. I also post them on my professional account on LinkedIn. So between Instagram and LinkedIn, I have people reach out to me privately. This is really cool. I needed to hear that today. I don't post them necessarily. I share them with other people, but I don't necessarily post them. I absolutely do not want to be one of those positive can-do
Right.
influencers. No, not my style, because all of us are going to struggle. But I appreciate that people are reaching out to me. This is what I needed to hear today. Thank you for posting these. I don't publicly interact with them necessarily, but they won't publicly interact with whatever my posts are, but they'll reach out to me privately and say, gosh, I really that you're doing this.
That just as an aside, that's a funny thing I've realized about LinkedIn is that I've been trying to make an effort to post more this year, and it's been very
Hmm.
much a conscious effort of I sell market research, and I've
Hmm.
always been afraid to like not necessarily dilute that part of me on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
I started just like putting some stuff out there and I do try to be thoughtful, but put some stuff. I'm like, what would be fun to read? What would help people get to know me better? What could it help sell market research?
Hmm.
What could I do that would just be fun that wouldn't hurt
Hmm.
selling market research? Honestly, my goal on LinkedIn is to connect with people who will help me professionally.
Hmm.
That's what everyone's doing. It's not, it sounds weird to say it like that, but that's how things work. But I haven't sold any market research from doing it, but I've had a
Hmm.
handful of really good conversations with people who have reached out to me just like that, being
Hmm.
like, what you said resonated, or that's really interesting, or just I'm intrigued by the way you're posting. Like that, it makes
Hmm.
me feel good to see other people putting themselves out there. So I love that. I love your example of merging, not hiding yourself from LinkedIn, basically being yourself
Yeah.
even in this corporate world.
Yeah. The dilemma that you just posed is one that I struggle with myself. This is your brand, this is your personality, this is who you are. And if people don't like it, you probably don't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true. And I had this idea. My boss is does he would never put limits or restrictions on me, but I think there's always this sense that I'm like, is my LinkedIn owned by my company? And the
Hmm.
answer is a hard no, but it almost feels
Hmm.
like it should sometimes be supporting your company in that way. But like my boss loves it when I like write stuff about myself. Like,
Hmm.
no, that's just great. It's cool to see. Like, I don't know why I put this kind of limit on myself. Like, I shouldn't be
Hmm.
putting myself out there in this way, just not advertising myself, but making myself available for connection in that way. Nobody owns the LinkedIn but me.
Yes. Yeah. The large company that I worked for was very much like your views and your opinions and everything else are your own. Please state that clearly in what you are saying. Thou shalt not talk about company secrets. Thou not do anything that would damage the brand. as long as you clearly state this is who you are and what your opinions are. I would never go as far as saying demeaning things about any of my employers in my LinkedIn posts, but at the same time, it's like I have to be me. I have to have my brand voice out there. The thing that I keep hearing from some of my people is don't be bashful. Self promote the heck out of yourself.
Yes, I love that. That's such a good reminder because I think my takeaway has just been LinkedIn is such a big mess. Like not in a bad
Hmm.
way. Like no one knows what to do with it. Like I think the
Hmm.
conversation we're having is how everyone feels. They're like, do I be
Hmm.
myself? And it
Hmm.
remembering that has made me feel so much more like sympathetic also. Maybe posts that seem like
Hmm.
annoying or judgy or something. I'm like, oh, they're just trying.
Hmm.
They're trying to figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
they use ChatGPT to write this. I don't care. They're trying things. They're
Yeah.
just if what you decide to do is to promote yourself, like no better place to do it. And it can be in any capacity as long as it's not bringing anyone else down or bringing down a company, unless you've been
Right.
like egregiously wronged and have no other outlet to get support. Not a lot to gain from that. So totally. Okay. So you're in the midst of this storm. You're creating this book. I also,
Yeah. Chaotic
and yes,
storm.
I'm a lifelong Portlander. And yes, I was
Hmm.
here for the storm. The
Hmm.
storm in itself was just a nightmare for us.
Yeah.
For me, I was just so stressed and everything you're going through sounds like terrible. But anyway, I'm like, I think in the majority of us that just like laughs when things are terrible. And I'm just like
Hmm.
laughing at, did you just feel like you're like, this is a little too on the nose with the storm, like
Hmm.
in the midst of all of these really difficult challenges in your life? I just would have been like, of course there's a storm. And of
Yeah.
course, like, like when it was like 15 degrees out. I can't
Hmm.
believe you were just
Right.
hunkered in your house so that we lasted like a day. We had to make our way to a hotel and it was just that was very cold. And you chose to use that freezing cold time to write a book. That's amazing.
I wound up getting rescued by my sister not that long after I had that
Good.
realization. She lives up on the Mount Hood and works at one of the resorts. And she's like, my car can actually handle the snow and ice. I'm going to come get you. My house, I have no power. I at least have heat. So I'm going to come get you and rescue you from that. But after all of that happened, I'm like, okay, yeah, this seems like this would be a really cool idea for a book. Let's make this happen. One of the things that I discussed really early on in the book, like the first year, so a lot of things came to a head in early 2023. I was so ashamed okay, I made a conscious decision to say, okay, that's it. I do not want to be in this marriage anymore. And I was so ashamed. I have failed. Something has gone wrong. What have I done? And I just curled up into a little ball for quite a while. And then I started reaching out and talking to other women. Here, this is what I'm going through with my job, with my marriage, with all the other things. This is very stressful to me. And so many of the women were like, we have been there. Like we're talking jobs. We've had weird stuff happen in our relationships. We have lost parents. We have lost other people who love, who we really loved. You are not alone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
of course, we're all human. None of us are in this like perfect bubble. We all have relationships with each other. We are all trying to find ways to have income in order to fund our lives. And of course, I'm not the only person going through this, but that really,
But people don't always
it
say it
really
out loud,
changed.
and they don't always say it out
Yeah.
loud, like in a way that have that information available when you're going
Hmm.
through it. The
Right.
number of times you say something, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. And I'm like,
Mhm.
why did you?
Right. Some of that actually, I wound up channeling a lot of that energy into the book. And also, I journal like mad. If something's
Hmm.
going on, I will journal first and then I'll call someone. Fortunately, I have a circle of friends where I call, they pick up the phone, we work through things. They usually have other stuff going on also.
Yeah.
I want to share my trauma, but tell me more about what's going on with you. There's actually been at least one or two calls where I needed a distraction from all the emotionally challenging things in my life. I'd call someone like, all right, tell me what went wrong with your day. Tell me about what went right with your day.
Right.
I don't want to talk about anything about me. I just want to hear from you and listen to you. And that was a great
Yes.
distraction. And also, I think a really good opportunity to really strengthen my friendship with some of these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've done all your journaling, so you can cut down all your trauma dumping by 4 hours to 2 hours, and
Right.
I've done my prep work.
Mhm.
But no, totally like hearing other people go through it. Okay, so you did this little maybe involuntary training on how to manage your
Mhm.
emotions and everything during this really rough time. And then just was like, so what you said, this is what I would have liked to have some kind of like
Mhm.
version of semi get your feelings out, semi distract myself,
Mhm.
and just still being very Jen liking to make things.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd done like some book layout and some book design as side projects. And I'm like, oh, I don't actually have to hire out a lot of this stuff. I know how to create the artwork. I have a full Adobe Creative Cloud license for all the stuff. It's like I have the tools ahead of me or in front of me, and I know how to use these things. There's a lot of muscles that I needed to either I needed to strengthen those or I needed to learn some new things. Like, how do I lay out a crossword puzzle? There are a number of apps online where they will create puzzles for you, but it's with their layout. And sometimes they'll have like cute little animals on the
Uh,
page when they generate. It's like what you would generate for classrooms. That's not my style. As I put together the book, I actually wrote up a style guide. What are the colors I'm going to use? What are the fonts? What do I want? My book coaches, you need to make this an ebook. Any of the
mm.
places where you buy ebooks, they're not going to let you print that stuff out. So
Right.
I was very conscientious of that. And I wanted to find a printer who would do a book to the quality that I wanted to have it. Yeah, the book. One of the other things that was really
Yeah,
important
that's
to me,
beautiful.
I love this. I love the cover so much.
It's so
But
pretty.
it was really important to me to have it be a mix of color and black and white. Like, obviously, these are the things that people would draw in color and provide their own things to it. Yeah.
Popping
So the
up.
post-it notes, I wanted to have the post-it notes in color, and it added to the production price of the book. But I'm
Hmm.
like, this is worth it to me because this is my vision. This is what I
Yeah.
want it to be. I wanted it to be full on color. There was a lot of trial
Uses
and
white
error.
post-it notes.
Yeah. I did a lot of trial and error on how I wanted to do the post-it notes. I was looking at some stock images. The whole book was a lot of trial and error. And finally, I landed on I'm just going to sketch the post-it
Oh,
notes.
nice.
I have a whole library within Creative Cloud where I just did 20 different variations on the post-it notes. That way I could just drag and drop them
Yeah. What were
into
you
the book.
drawing on?
I've got my iPad and I was just using my iPad to draw all those
What,
things.
that's
And
what you use Adobe Illustrator for that?
right.
Okay.
With Illustrator. I'm just not kidding. Yeah, so the tools that I used Illustrator to do most of the drawing. There was a couple times where I just sketched out on paper and then either I scanned it or I just took a picture of it, brought it into Illustrator, and then I did the trace tool so that I could manipulate it. The book layout was done in InDesign.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you keep talking about this book coach. What's a book
Mhm.
coach?
A book coach. So there's a friend of mine who does corporate coaching, and she had written a book. And I was paying attention to her journey, and she did a workshop on how to write a book. And so I took the class, and I was talking to her later about it. And she's like, all right, I'm going to be your mentor during this process. And so she and I were spitballing things back and forth on how that works. I learned a lot of things from her. Like, she was all about go directly through Kindle, do not pass go, do not collect $200. And I wound up going a different route because I wanted to have the full color or
You need
have
that
the
like
option for color.
tactile coloring.
And the company that I went through is called Ingram Spark. With Ingram Spark, when you create a book with them, then you are automatically added to the catalogs that bookstores order from.
Oh,
Whereas,
cool.
yeah, if I did it through Kindle Direct Publishing, I would have to create a second ISBN in order to have it distributed, and I have to create other distribution things. But by doing it through Ingram Spark, I'm in the bookstore and I can sell on Amazon. Yeah, people can purchase directly from Ingram Spark or they can buy from any number of retailers, including Amazon, Powell's, Barnes and Noble, etc.
Okay. I feel like we're like at the tip of the iceberg. It sounds like if you want to make a book, go get a book coach or investigate
Yeah.
deeper. But that's really cool little snippets of the tactical things that go into this
Mhm.
process because I feel like the idea of just making a book sounds so intimidating, but it's also such
Mhm.
a cool thing to be able to put together and know that like maybe for this type of book you would want to do a Kindle, and for this type
Mhm.
of book like you can go your route and have it printed out and know some basic jumping off points. What was the
Yeah, I have
hardest part? Oh, cool.
mostly gelatin. Like the
Is
crazy,
that the name of the book?
no, I pretty much right now I have all of the recipe books that I got inherited from my grandparents, and I went through with sticky notes, like sticky note bookmarks. This would be a good recipe. This would be a good recipe. This would be a good recipe, so that I can use those as inspiration. But one of the reasons for it is not just because I want to put a gelatin cookbook out there. The primary reason is I want to practice laying out an ebook because I haven't laid out an ebook in well over a decade.
So you can just, like you said, flex those
Mhm.
muscles and know everything. Okay, so we're
Mhm.
really going to be like a comprehensive bookmaking, book
Mhm.
publishing
Yeah.
expert. That's awesome. I do really like the idea of a book called Mostly Gelatin. So if you need
Okay, I'm
that,
writing that. Yeah. Okay. All right. There might.
be like the punchy princess title that your friend, will talk you out of and be like, what are you doing?
And now I'm thinking, call it mostly gelatin, and the things that are not gelatin would be, I mean, it could be mostly gelatin, like there's Jello plus the vegetables that you want to suspend in the gelatin, or it could be gelatin plus cooking motivation. I'm loving this conversation because I'm getting ideas.
So mostly gelatin. Stay tuned for that
Yeah.
update. Okay,
Oh, I
so
think
here's
you were
something
asking about organizing the book.
I don't know. So go with that one. Just you and me. Okay, yeah. So
Mhm.
how did we organize the book? What was that like?
So what I did is I took a lot of the sticky notes that I have and I went to a neighborhood coffee shop. I found one that had really big tables that you could use. And I was putting sticky notes and theming them together. And I was also doing a million index cards. Like so the introduction and the close. And I'd write up these things. Like I wanted it to be easy to read and absorb, not like college reading. That was one of the other inspirations for the book. I have so many self-help books up here and it feels like college reading. I'm like,
I have some
I
like that too. That you're like I this, and if also like you're compulsive, maybe like we
mhm,
are a little bit. Like I'll get this really fun looking book, and then I get stuck on
mhm,
the intro, and I'm like, this intro is really dense. I just can't get
mhm.
past the activities because
Yeah,
God forbid I open it up and just
mhm,
start doing it in the middle of the book like a normal
yeah,
person.
yeah. So just things like, oh, also really important to me, this book belongs to book plate.
Ooh,
I
like
remember
kids
that
get.
when yeah, like what kids get. So the very first page of the book is
Oh,
book belongs to.
yeah.
I wanted to have some childhood like playfulness in this.
That's been my takeaway from every glimpse of your book I've had is
Mhm,
that I have kids and they always like have all these fun things, but they're for
mhm.
them. So I'm like, that doesn't, it could be like a little higher level, but like I
Yeah,
miss that. They'll be like, can you help me with this word search? I'm
yeah,
really good at
that was
these.
of all the themes that I was coming up with. So I've got loss and growth and money, career, self-esteem. I have all the post-it note themes that I organized. But then there was the next challenge of, all right, so under loss, losing a parent or a loved one. If that's the theme, what type of activity should that be? Should that be a Mad Lib? Should that be a word find, a crossword puzzle? Should that
I
be a
think about like
drawing
the
prompt?
SAT thing, like losing a
Yeah.
parent is to a
Mhm.
Mad Lib, as going through a
Okay.
divorce is to fill in the blank.
Okay. Now I'm getting,
Sudoku.
I love this because I'm writing down, I'm always getting ideas for new books. I'll check out activity books. Like I picked up one at an airport where I'm like, this is really cool. I haven't seen this kind of puzzle yet. I bought a copy of it so that I can use some variation of that in a future book.
Inspiration. And look how good at post-it notes you are. Like you hear something, that's how you do it. I hear something and I'm like, I
Yep.
will obviously remember that forever.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I did with the organizations. Like I write things down by hand. So I have all these stacks of things. Originally, I was going to mix up all the puzzles, and I wound up doing a pivot so that I can make like a heroine's journey. What's standing in my way? What do I want to do? What are the rituals that I need to do in order to get there? Who's supporting me? And then how can I support others on their journey? And so it's this whole linear-ish.
Oh, amazing.
organization for all the puzzles and activities.
Yeah, that's such like a good reflection activity in itself too. Like that's I got in trouble with my therapist recently because I spend too much time doing these types of activities and not enough time like doing things. But I think there's
Mhm.
worse things.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, something I wanted to ask you about is you shared a media kit with me when we
Hmm.
were emailing about this. And I thought
Hmm.
I've heard the phrase media kit. I think I've seen them here, but I don't really know anything about them. I
Hmm.
think it's just kind of something you share with someone to give them like an idea of what you're about. But do you
Hmm.
want to give a better overview of a media kit? Because I just thought it was really cool and it felt like so
Hmm.
professional and nice. And I was wondering if that's something that like people could leverage more. I'm like, can I make a
Hmm.
media kit for whatever I'm
Yes,
doing?
you.
What led you to this media and teach me about it?
Okay, so within a media kit, you want to introduce yourself. What is your project? Like if you're talking about a blog or a podcast, so you want to have it be very succinct. It's a pitch. So let's
Mhm.
say you want to be on a podcast or you want to be covered by a newspaper, you need to give them a very short, digestible pitch
And
of
like
why
it's
you're
not
worth
like
talking to.
and I'm hearing that it's not like a resume, like you don't put like all your stuff on it necessarily. So yours had nothing to do with your corporate world. It had nothing to
Mhm.
do with even like all the different art stuff you do. It's just like this
Mhm.
book and
Right.
lots of supporting collateral. Okay.
Because it is like the whole point of the media kit is to talk about the book. So I made sure that I included like what are the like some of the reviews and the feedback, the endorsements that I got for the book. Where can one find it? How can someone find me if they want to talk about it? So I think the last page of the media kit is all, these you can reach out to me on Instagram. This is how you book a call with me. Find me on LinkedIn. Actually, I don't know if I put LinkedIn on that.
You
It's
have
like
all that relevant information.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
I had been dragging my feet on that thing for 6 months. The book actually came out last summer. The book came together, like it took me 3 months to build the book. And then it took me maybe a month to have the courage to say, all right, here, print, have the
Right.
printer send it back to me, and then to start announcing it and talking about it. I was so nervous. I felt like I wasn't necessarily valuing my own work. And last summer, I was supposed to get my press kit together so that I could start getting media interviews about it. And I only finished that like maybe a week or two ago after,
Oh, okay.
yeah, after a lot of nudging and prodding. I think you said, I think on, I want to say it was on Beehive or one of your things where embarrassment is a huge motivation for
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
And
That's how I get everything done.
yeah, I'm starting to feel that way also. I had coffee with a friend last week and I finally had sold out of my print copies of the book and I had one with me. He's, dude, there is a bookstore 2 doors down from where we're having coffee. You get your butt in there and you talk to them about possibly carrying your book. And I did. They decided not to, the book wasn't quite right for their bookstore, but I am so proud of myself because I went and I had the conversation. I hadn't finished so there's another thing involved with marketing books is called a sell sheet, and it's a one
Oh.
pager. Yeah, I'll send you a
Like,
copy.
yeah, show me that too. It's like the press kit condensed into one page.
So on the sell sheet, yeah, condensed down to one page. Mine is technically two because it's an activity book. I wanted to give them a preview of the book. So it's like a 6 up or a 9 up of the different pages, like examples of what the pages are. That is included in my press kit as well. And that way, if I'm a bookstore and I want to know more about the book without having to go and download the preview copy, I can just see it immediately.
Almost like fortuitous to go in and practice on someone who it's not like the exact perfect fit for. So you're ready for, they always say, don't, if you're interviewing for a job, don't go do like your
Mhm.
most like perfect dream job role as your first interview.
Mhm.
Warm up a little. But what a
Mhm.
good friend, too. And for me, that would be like,
Mhm.
now I'm going to be embarrassed in front of my friend if I don't go do this. So I have to pick
Mhm.
which thing I'm going to be embarrassed about of pitching to the bookstore. Oh, embarrassed in front of
Mhm.
my friend. That's how I just
Yeah.
view everything.
One of the things I've realized as I go, it's getting rejections, whether it's through company interviews or people not wanting to carry my book. It's not a reflection on my either my value or on the value of my work. It's just, oh, it wasn't the right fit. That's that. It has taken me so long to get to this point. You have no idea.
I know you have to like you hear it and say it, but then
Mm,
to really get it is
yeah.
different. It helps to work in sales, I've found, to get rejected and ignored all day long, but
Yeah.
it's still a little different doing that for like
Mhm.
market research versus something that is very personal to you. So
Yeah.
that's an excellent skill.
The sales part has definitely been one of the biggest challenges for me. I can create things all day long. Approaching people about purchasing my book and promoting my book, that's scary. It's a
Yeah.
muscle, just like the other parts of the book. It's like, this is a muscle I have to build up.
There's so many things to it, and I think that's like what I'm trying to grasp my mind around in terms of
Mhm,
this kind of project I have pursuing being
mhm,
an artist in some capacity where I could make money from it one
mhm,
day. It's for me, even just becoming an artist beyond like my kind of creative side hustle activities is a thing to learn and to work on. Then there's it's selling. I think in theory I could do
mhm,
okay with it, but first I have to have stuff to sell and you have to market it, like
mhm,
have people know about it. And there's so
mhm.
much involved.
Yeah.
One thing I was wondering is like how much you've been able to leverage your background in the corporate world
Mhm.
in making things happen here.
Some of it project management, like in my tech roles, I've done everything from being a software product manager where you define things and you are the glue between the business and the engineers and the testers. Having that curiosity as a product manager works, having to run an entire program. The company that I was working for was very big on brand. They had the one of the founders said, "Look, we technically sell these products, but we are a storytelling company that also sells these products." That
Mm.
really resonates with me. They were so about brand, about making sure that things look really good and really dialed in so that you could reach your audience. I've taken a lot of that with me, and that's another reason why I built a style guide. I had a brief. I was toying with the idea of outsourcing some of the artwork. And I built up this, great creative brief. It's like, all right, these are the themes that I'm going for. This is who the target audience is. And I had this very distinctive here. This is what I want you to build it. And it was not successful because the artists that I asked for sample pages from, no, no, this does not, no, this
Was the
isn't
artist
right.
ChatGPT?
Oh,
I
it's
know, I'm
someone, it's
kidding, but
someone,
I
I,
like that sounds like the
yeah.
same when you're trying to express your vision in a way that it can be interpreted by
Mhm,
robots or humans alike. It's
mhm.
difficult.
Yeah, Adobe has a product called Firefly,
Mhm.
which is good in theory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's similar
I've heard of
to a
it, but I
lot of
haven't
the,
used any of this.
yeah, I have thoughts and feelings about it. Like I would give it a prompt and then I would add like maybe one or two words and it would still return the same results. I'm like, all right. Are you just like selecting canned responses from a library? I'm not sure. Yeah, and some of the stuff, like I told them here, make it really simple, and it would send it back as this really florally, very busy piece of art. I'm like, you did not listen to me. All right,
Yeah,
F it.
yeah.
I'm going to draw these
I'll
things all
just do it.
myself. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. I imagine maybe you were like, I was hoping this would be like slightly more outsourceable, but sounds like it
Mhm,
wasn't. The pieces that you talked about is managing a lot of moving parts
mhm,
and being able to understand the importance of the brand and the cohesion there and
mhm,
mapping to that throughout, I think are good takeaways as things that you can focus on to run with. And I could see that probably made you in a much better position. I just think this seems
sure.
hard and there's so many
Mhm,
things involved. And I'm just always blown away
mhm,
by people who just do things because I have so many ideas and I struggle so
mhm,
much to know how to make them happen. And you just have kind
mhm,
of all these things laid out and just move forward with it. So that's
mhm.
super cool. That's my takeaway.
Some of it is also, it's like business wise, what's going to be in my budget? What's going to be worth my time? There's a couple of rabbit holes that I'm pursuing. I'm looking to publish a copy of it in Spanish.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so my area of specialty is called, it's localization. So it's how do you, that's my corporate,
Yeah.
like, it's one of those things you cannot turn that off once you understand what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I did an interview with a networking group that I belong to, and and these are people, these are women like all over the world, and they're like, when are you? So how would you go about localizing it, and then also when is it going to be available in other languages? If I'm someone who picks this up in Japan, or in the UK? Are the themes going to resonate with them for where they are in their lives or their careers? So I have to think
Yeah.
about those types of things. Are they puzzle types that people understand how to do? Am I going to have to teach someone within the book of how do you do a crossword puzzle? Then there's the
Hmm.
other part where if I'm doing it like, okay, so I'm looking at Spanish. Spanish would be my first mover for it. Spanish is different in that it has like all the accents on like the tops and the bottoms of the characters. What does that, and depending on whether it has an accent or not, would totally change the meaning of the word. If I do a, I was researching this, if I do a word find in it, do I need to have the accents on the word? And when you're trying to circle words, it's how would that work? Yeah. And so I am actually starting to have some conversations. Fortunately, being a localization geek, I know a number of people who I
You
can
have
consult with on
some
it.
people.
Mhm. Yeah, but I can put it in Spanish. There's also the I'm going rabbit hole-y sort of thing on it.
Oh,
But
isn't it
Spanish,
fascinating?
okay, so Spanish in Spain is going to be different than Spanish. Okay, technically there's like a Latin American Spanish, which
Mm.
is misnomer-ish. It's a common, most of the things are common in it, but there's going to be regional dialects, heck, even from different areas of a municipality. The words are going to be slightly different. So it's like, how do I decide how deep into translating it do I want to get?
I think you just need to make 80 different copies of it.
It's like, how much return am I going to get on that investment if I go to make it that hyper local?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. No, it's funny
Yeah.
because that's like a funny overlap with what I do. I sell market
Mhm.
research, and people often don't need to do multiple regions, but a lot of times people want to
Mhm.
understand perspectives from different regions and some of it. But does this need to be localized? Are people
Mhm.
doing things differently? Do they? And it's not so much for things like the spelling or things like that, but it's more do people talk about this differently, especially in tech? Is everyone calling this the same thing, or do they have
Mhm.
different words for these things? Do we have to have our
Mhm.
brand messages and marketing be the same
Mhm.
thing? Probably similar. It's like maybe someone going through like a career
Mhm.
transition might use one word for being
Mhm.
fired or a different job. They might have a different terminology, and if you translate it
Mhm.
exactly, it'll mean something very different. So I imagine, yeah, you don't want to have the joke book that just has absurd
Mhm.
translations in it because you were too literal.
Yeah,
So that,
there's a book that I really like a lot where it's just talking about like culturally, like you and I can just back and forth. But
yeah,
let's say that if I'm talking about, I want to say it's the Dutch, where they are very blunt with their humor and the way that they talk about things. The way that things would land in conversations with them would be completely different. There was one other use case from this book where there's a woman from France who's working for someone who is in Canada. And North America, we usually will arrange our feedback in it's a positive and then a negative and then the positive again. And
right.
this woman did not understand, like she only heard the positives and she didn't hear the negative in the middle. And she's, oh, I'm doing fine. My manager said I'm doing great. And she didn't understand culturally how that's how we do things in
Like
North.
two nice things, which was more than the one not nice thing you said.
Yeah, in
There's
Japan,
logic there.
they wait to be called on for feedback. And I've gone into
Right.
meetings, and when I first started going into meetings with people in Japan, everyone was quiet. And then I learned culturally, they expect you to reach out to them and ask, okay, Colleen, what are your opinions on this thing
Hmm.
that I just pitched? And they kind
So
of
it's
wait.
rude if you don't invite that. You'll just never hear from them.
Yep, exactly. Having to understand those cultural contexts. And I have that so much in my brain that I'm looking at my book. I'm like, do I need to go hyper local? Because a lot of the puzzles in there are personal. Are the
Hmm.
exercises in the book relevant to other places where I would like to market it? Would the
Yeah.
content resonate with who I'm trying to reach?
Yeah. That'll be super
Mhm.
interesting. I think that's smart. Start with one other language, maybe thinking specifically about one of the regions
Mhm.
and go from there. It will be an exercise for you, I think, to figure out
Mhm.
how to do it effectively without overthinking it. Because I
Mhm.
imagine if that's your background, like you could go all in as much as you wanted.
Yes, very much to me. The briefs that I've been giving to the people that I'm working with, it's okay, I want to do it in Latin American Spanish for North American audience, specifically United States and Mexico Spanish.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Narrow it
there's
down a little bit.
and that's a pretty big audience, like within the
Mhm.
same area that you're already in. Okay, we have talked for quite a while, so can wrap things up. But is there, as someone who has used their creative energy, their personal story, and channeled that all into creating a real output like this, do you have
Mhm.
any advice for people who feel like they would like to do something similar?
One thing that an exercise that I like to do is I will, let's say I've got this grand vision for something. I will spend an afternoon sketching it out. And then from there, I'll decide, okay, is it worth pursuing? It may not be. It's paper's cheap. You can totally
Oh,
sketch something, back a napkin. There was a backpack, like an accordion style backpack that I was thinking about building. And I sketched out 3 times before. I'm like, you know what? This is not going to work, but I enjoyed the mental exercise of trying to create it. And just because you sketch it out on the back of a napkin doesn't mean that you're actually going to build it, but actually going through the exercise of how would I build this if I was going to build such a thing? I think people need to give themselves permission and encouragement to go through those exercises.
oh, that's such a good one. Enjoy the exercise in as the thing in itself sometimes also, if it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to move forward. Because I think that's the problem that I get stuck in is as soon as it's down on paper, I like feel bad about myself if I haven't done it.
Right.
And maybe that's my lesson from you is take it one step further of being like, is this a yes or no project now that you have had
Mhm.
this nice afternoon of list building or design making or things like that?
Yep.
And call that a good time and not a loss if you don't move forward.
Yeah, and it may be a sketch that sits on your shelf or in your notebook for years. It may never come to fruition, or you'll come up with a different idea. And all the research and thought work that I did for that other project might come into a different project. It's like you're building
Yes.
out that library of things.
Okay. And where can we find you and purchase your activity book?
Hey, strongerwiserfabulous.com is where you can get the book. It includes links to a number of US-based retailers. You can purchase it directly from me, which I prefer, but most people like, okay, yep, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Pals, they already have relationships with those companies. Find me on Instagram. I am Jen Likes to Make Things. I have a book launch party on April 4th in Southwest Portland. There's information about that on Instagram. Also, keep an eye out if you're in the Portland metro area. I'm going to start having coloring nights. It's not just, hey, come buy my book, get a glass of wine and buy my book. I am bringing all of the crayons and markers and pens and pencils and printouts from the book so that people can just hang out and just do
Yes.
some of the activities. So I am going to start having these coloring nights around the Portland metro area. So keep an eye out on my Instagram. Jen Likes to Make Things, or if you want a book, strongerwiserfabulous.com.
Okay, thank you. I love that. All I want to do in life is sit next to my friends and color and do crafts. That's a good
Exactly.
idea. I'll be there. All right. Thank you so much, Jen. Everyone, please hit subscribe to keep seeing these interviews in your feed and to learn more
Yes.
about how to break into the art world. And you can check out my newsletter too, Can't Not Create. And we'll see you next time.